This is Angela Lackey, author of Surviving Ed, the Eating Disorders Recovery blog at healthyplace.com. And today I would like to talk about people who just don't get it. And by that I mean, of course, people who don't understand eating disorders. Those of us with eating disorders have all run into people who don't get it, who don't understand eating disorders, and who often say things that can be either hurtful or potentially damaging, and sometimes even borderline cruel. For example, I remember when I first started developing anorexia. I developed anorexia as an adult, and many people would say to me, "Why don't you just eat?" I must have heard that a million times. In fact, if I had $1 for every time I heard it, I would be able to retire and go to a nice tropical island where it's 75 degrees and sunny instead of in the cold, rainy Midwest. But anyway, when I first heard that remark, I was really puzzled because I thought in my head, well, first of all, I am eating. I mean, nobody with anorexia completely stops eating, obviously. But I also thought, well, don't they realize that I can't eat any more than I do, that I just can't do it? It wasn't something that I was willfully doing, stating, "Oh, I won't eat." It was, I just couldn't eat. It was very frightening, the thought of eating, and therefore I wouldn't eat, and I didn't understand why they didn't understand. But one of the comments that I got that really bothered me and that I found borderline cruel is that people would say, "I wish I could get anorexia just for a little bit." I hated that comment, and at the time I was too sick to really respond to it. Now, of course, I know I would say, and the reason I hated that comment was for two different reasons. First of all, it made it sound like, again, anorexia was something that I was doing to myself deliberately. But of course, why would I? Why would anyone choose to have anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder or any type of eating disorder? And second, it made me think that they just were trivializing my struggles, that anorexia was just something, or any eating disorder really, was something that we could just put on and off, like a new shirt, pair of shoes, just take it on and off. And often the people who said that were people who were trying to lose weight, and while I understand that that is a struggle too, to say that to someone who is clearly dying, because when I was at my worst, I looked like I was dying, to me, strikes me as borderline cruel. Another comment that I've heard many people say, particularly to those who suffer from bulimia and who are at a normal weight, or those of us who have anorexia and we're in the process of refeeding, but we're not yet completely recovered, is, "Well, you don't look sick. You have a great figure. Why do you think something's wrong with you? You're just imagining things. You're just making things up. You're exaggerating. There's not a thing wrong with you." Well, I don't think a lot of people realize, let's take bulimia, for example, that many people with bulimia who are at normal weight are actually quite ill. because of the things that bulimia has done to their bodies. And people will look at them and think they have a great figure, but inside they are quite, again, I want to stress, quite ill. And, it messes with your electrolytes, it messes with things in your esophagus, it does all types of things. But people will look at people, and unless they are completely emaciated, they don't think they have an eating disorder. And that's where I think we step in, those of us with eating disorders who are in recovery, if we feel strong enough to correct people and point out that eating disorders cover a spectrum from anorexia to bulimia to binge eating disorder. Sometimes you can have more than one type of eating disorder. Sometimes you can have an eating disorder such as anorexia and then develop bulimia, or you can have binge eating disorder and then perhaps develop bulimia, or any combination of that. And my point being is that people need to realize that the face of eating disorders is not only the face of the emaciated star of the week featured in People magazine who has anorexia. The faces of eating disorder are many and varied and include both male and female, people of all sizes, and people of all builds, and the eating disorders are manifested in different types of ways, and just educating people and pointing them toward resources where they can learn more about eating disorders, like the articles at healthyplace.com, or they can search online for the National Eating Disorders Association. They also provide a lot of good information. And then the bottom line, talking to those of us with eating disorders. And so I would just like to stress that if you run into one of those people who just don't get it, first stop and think, I don't think that most people are being deliberately cruel. They just need to learn. And either we can help them in our education efforts. If we're not up to that, we can point them towards resources that can help them, and perhaps erase some of the stereotypes that people have about eating disorders. So that's just what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for listening, and have a very good day.